Dear Diary, this is my 5th entry, and today I will be responding to a blog post that my sister wrote. So basically we started this thing where I'm supposed to post a video on a Monday, she'll post a blog post on a Friday in response, and then I respond to it on the Monday, blah 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 blah. So she's written the first post, and we kinda don't have a schedule yet, but this video will go up on Monday, I'm sure of it. Now I'm saying it, so I have to do it. It'll be up on Monday. And then hopefully she'll put her blog post on Friday, except that she's in Israel right now, which makes that a bit challenging, but maybe I'll put it up for her. Like, she can send it to me somehow, then I'll put it up for her. Anyway.
So this is the first time I've made a script for the episode, so I hope it goes well. Since the last entry, I've done a lot. It's really difficult to edit a video when one is at school. It's also strange how writing with a pen makes my thoughts run a lot more wild. Like, I'm much less focused. It also doesn't help that I'm in history class, or was in history class when I wrote that. I wonder how the script reading will go if phrases like I am in history class will become I was in history class. Anyways, something that is helpful with the whole script thing is that I can just look back at the previous part to see where I was. Editing is a long process. 2nd of February 1990, that was a random date that I wrote down because that's what was happening in my history class, really learning about per date and stuff. I'm trying to work out how to speed it up, the process of editing. Maybe if I make a script for it, that'll help, as I've done for this episode. I think it'll end up as an optimum between time spent on pre-production, production, and post-production. Pre-production for the first 4 entries was basically 0. Production was about 3 to 4 times as long as the video, and post-production about 8 to 10 times as long as the video. But if I write a script, the pre-production becomes the longest part by far, with the production and the post-production working out to maybe twice as long as the video itself. It's an interesting concept, how the change between pen, typed, or spoken words affects speed directly. But perhaps the medium also affects the quality of the writing. Maybe the speed of the writing and the medium also affects the quality and what is created, because it forces either more or less between the ideas in my head and their outworking either, accordingly. So either a typed recording, a typed document, a recording, or a written document. There's a bottleneck between the idea and the product. The tighter the bottleneck, the more ideas are sorted before they go through and are finally pushed out. That seems rather relevant. But I think a lot deeper when I write than when I record normally, because a lot of the processing power of my brain stands idle while I write, because the words come out so relatively slowly when I write. As a result of the excess power while I write, each word and phrase is more deeply thought about. The other thing that is harder when writing a script is stalling for time. I wonder, perhaps, should I? No. Maybe it isn't so hard to write that. Looking at the ideas for this episode, which I had quite clearly run out of, and one of them was that of maturity. Maturity starts off as something that no one has. No child is fully mature. Some are more mature than others, but maturity grows with time. As a teenager, maturity becomes super important because now I'm an adult. But really, teenagers are often less mature than adults. Well, basically always. At least kids have the excuse that they don't know what to do or what's going on. But teenagers know what they should do, but they don't do it. Maturity, that's where I was. I often feel that maturity is a label given to people who act like adults, versus immaturity, which is how kids act. But I don't think that's right. Maturity is the wisdom of knowing what to do in every situation, and doing it. Sometimes that requires doing stupid or immature things, but that's the point. A mature person doesn't care what other people think. They care about the people themselves, not what they think. That was an interesting thought that I had. It also links into stuff that I want to do. I have the ideal of not caring what other people think, and not letting the opinion of others shape what I do. But it's really hard to do that. In essence, the idea is that one simply has no care about what other people think. But in reality, it's much harder than that. What other people think is not necessarily bad. Like what my mom thinks about me is important, because if she thinks I'm an idiot, she's probably right, as opposed to some of my school friends who would think that being really smart is a bad idea. Clearly not. But this idea of not caring what other people think is super difficult to get right. I mean, I've been trying for at least a year to get better at this. And when I'm in a group, I often do better than when I'm by myself. But I still, after a year of trying, feel that I'm exactly where I started, caring far too deeply about what other people think about me. This is an area of maturity. the idea of not caring what other people think of you, but it's super difficult to figure it out. I used to think that maturity equals self-awareness, but it's so much more. If maturity was self-awareness, then it would be super easy to be mature. Maturity would become a choice. You are self-aware, therefore you are mature. If you realize that you aren't mature, then by definition you have become more mature by realizing that fact, because you are self-aware about it. But really, maturity is far more complex, and although recognizing maturity in others is part of it, it is only a small area. I realized later that maturity is not equivalent to self-awareness, but I couldn't figure out why. It would have seemed that maturity wasn't self-awareness, but what was it? Now I believe I've worked out a large part of it by stumbling across an area in which, although I've been aware of it and actively working on it, it hasn't changed. This is one aspect of maturity, the ability to not care what other people think. This is the aspect that I'm talking about. And I am self-aware about it. I realize that I should care less about what other people think, and yet for a year I've been self-aware and not getting any more mature. Now, of course, there are other more important aspects of maturity, like the ability to be responsible in situations that require it, and realizing which situations do require it and which situations don't. Maturity is a multifold thing, sadly. Yeah, I guess that's all what I'm going to say. Now, for some things that I would like to ask you, Joy. I've heard that you are going to visit Israel and America soon, and actually, as of recording this episode, you are in Israel. And it would be great if you could tell me about your trip. Where are you going? Well, I sort of know part of that. Why are you in Israel at the moment? That is a burning question, and I have no clue why. What's the point of your trip? When do you leave? Oh, wait, I know you've already left, so yeah. And please write blog posts about your travels during your travels. It would be awesome to be able to know what's going on with you while you're gone. I just had an interesting thought. So we live in the same house, but there are a lot of things which we don't know about each other. You can't really get any closer to someone than by living with them, but even still we have our own lives. Working together could be closer if you work on the same stuff, but really, what I do at school all day is a blank wall to you, and your work is a blank wall to me. I mean, the fact that everybody in our house except me basically works on project management means that I probably know more about your work than you do about my school, except that you went to high school too, so you have some idea. Another interesting thing is that while you were at high school, I had absolutely no clue what it was like, so I had no reference points as to what it might be like. But now I'm at high school, and you have many reference points as to what my life should be like at school. Weird thought, anyway. My life at school, revealing the curtain slowly but surely. Perhaps I should start with the fact that I really have loved school up until about maybe 4 weeks ago. And now suddenly, the fact that university is within an appreciable time frame, as in like 3 months, that has kind of destroyed my love for high school. It's like I was perfectly happy to continue my life knowing that one day I would be there in university. And life at school was great because it was the only thing I was going to do for a large amount of time after that point. But now, knowing that I'm almost there and that I am, as it were, in the final stretch, I feel that high school is suddenly an inferior activity simply because the promise of a new and more exciting activity looms on the horizon. Anyway, it's a really sad fact about humans that our happiness is almost always totally relative. I mean, it mostly comes down to how you look at your life. I've seen a lot of really sad rich people and really happy poor people. It's not like money makes much difference. I've seen people who are super depressed at university and super happy people in high school. I understand that that might be a normal thing. But our happiness doesn't really have that much to do with our circumstances, as long as they have been similar for any length of time. Obviously, if someone close to you dies suddenly, that affects your happiness. But their deadness, if I can put it that way, their death, doesn't change, and as a result, your happiness can go back to what it was before. If something super awesome happens in your life, you'll probably get happier temporarily, but as the awesomeness wears off, your happiness will be back to what it was before. It's not like having more money than you could ever wish for will make you any happier. Sure, you might have an initial happiness spike because you now have more money, but studies have shown that money doesn't really have an impact on your overall happiness after the point where you don't have to worry about it.
So, in response to your blog post, Joy, I needed to, come up with a couple things. I've already asked you a couple questions, but you said a lot about the difference between you and me in terms of you being 6 years older, and so like you went through high school, and had no clue, and I've already spoken about that, like how the reference point is weird because you had a reference point while I'm in high school, but I had no reference point while you were in high school. And so I think it's very difficult to say, like, you envied me when you were in high school because of the fact that you envied my freedom being in primary school. But then it goes the other way too. And you can't really say it goes the other way because I had no clue what high school was like. And so I can't really say during primary school I wished I was in high school, though that was sort of the case. It's not like fully, that's not the total thing. Okay. And then um um
Over to you, Joy. I'll see you on Friday. Well, I'll read your blog post on Friday.